Okay, the book of Leviticus, chapter 13 today. We have a nice long chapter, so we're going to get moving. If you have some issues in your dermatology, where you have, looks like infections or sores or things of just a common basic nature, God's going to deal with that in this section of the scriptures as well as many other things. We live in kind of a day and age where here in America they have laws in place where you don't have to tell people if you have a disease or so forth to protect you, but you become then a hazard to others in a food place environment. Like, you have people that have, running sores and hepatitis and AIDS, and they're serving up hamburgers at the hamburger shop and at your fine restaurants and so forth, and they don't have to tell you. Just they pass that stuff around, and that's an abomination to God. In the old days, the disease were supposed to be set apart to their own little world, and now that's not the case. But obviously, that causes problems because then disease and so forth starts to spread, and that's nasty. And so God kind of gives you his laws. If there's communicable diseases and infections and leprosy and AIDS and people with hepatitis and just things that spread, running sores, they're to be put away from the regular society of people, that they're not contacting and spreading their germs and their disease. For obvious reasons. So the age in which we live is a little bit backwards. Instead of trying to protect the populace from the disease, we try to protect the diseases so that it's more likely that the few that have the disease will spread, into the populace. It's makes no sense. But today we're going to see God's laws, God's set code of people that have diseases and so forth, and what you should do if you have something you believe is a problem. In this case, you would go to the priest. In this modern age, you'd go to a doctor or nurse practitioner or so forth. But anyway, here we go. We got a nice long chapter here in Leviticus, so let's get the Bible bear moving here. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, When a man shall have in the skin of his flesh a rising sore or a bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priests. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of his flesh, and when the hair in the plague or the sore is turned white, and the plague is in the sight be deeper than the skin of the flesh, it is a plague of leprosy, and the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. At that point, he is to separate himself from his family, his friends, his co-workers, any ministry he's involved in immediately. And if it be found later, then he is clean, then he is allowed to wash and go through the cleansing rituals and so forth, and then he's allowed back into the camp if he is healed. But if not, he is supposed to stay outside the camp, away from his family, away from the people in his neighborhood, away, so that the disease is not spread to the populace. So the priest or the doctor would declare him unclean. So if the bright spot be white in the skin of his flesh, and the sight be not deeper than the skin, and the hair thereof is not turned white, then the priest shall put him that hath the plague for 7 days. So they'll isolate him for 7 days and watch him. And the priest shall look on him the 7th day, and behold, if the plague in his sight be at a stay, and the plague spread not on the skin, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on him again the 7th day, and behold, if the plague be somewhat dark, and the plague spread not in the skin, the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is but a sore that is healing, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. So apparently your body does a pretty good healing process in of itself. If you do, cleanliness activities, lots of washing and cleaning with water and soap and changing your clothes and make sure your bedding is changed and everything you're contacting changes. By 14 days, the body is going to begin the healing process. It's already going to be in play. Our body's pretty awesome. God has created the human body pretty magnificently, and it has a lot of healing principles that we just take for granted, but it just happens day in and day out. And when people that stop the healing process, their bodies are worn down from perhaps abuse or vitamin deficiencies, or perhaps a hereditary thing, or they've been exposed to like radiation or whatever, and their immune systems is damaged, and that's where the real problem there lies. But the human body is a pretty magnificent healing machine in of itself. Short of outward and unusual exposures, it's a healing machine. However, if the sore spread much abroad on the skin, after that he hath been seen of the priest for his cleansing, he shall be seen of the priest again. And if the priest see that, behold, the scab or the sore or the infection spreads in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprosy. Leprosy is any kind of skin disease, most especially to that type of the world. It's an unclean disease from poor sanitation and so forth, and it's pronounced and it gets worse and worse. And it doesn't necessarily have to go deep, but if the priest, or what would be now a doctor, would see that it continues to spread, he is to be declared unclean and set apart from the peoples. When the plague of leprosy in a man, then he shall be brought unto the priest, and the priest shall see him, and behold, if the rising be white in the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there be quick raw flesh in the rising, it is an old leprosy in the skin of his flesh, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, and shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if a leprosy break out abroad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague from his head even to his foot, wherefore the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy has covered all of his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean. That hath the plague, it is all turned white, he is clean. So when the skin gets that powdery white, that healing process in his skin, then he knows that he is clean. However, when raw flesh starts appearing in him, he shall be unclean. Obviously, you have raw flesh on your surface. You have a sore, perhaps you've gotten in an accident and it's raw. Your body should start healing immediately. Should start hardening over. The blood should stop flowing, and there should be a healing process. If that doesn't happen, then there's an infection in there that is not clean. So the priest shall see the raw flesh and pronounce him to be unclean, for the raw flesh is unclean, it is of leprosy. If the raw flesh turn again and be changed into white, he shall come unto the priest. So if he has been declared unclean, he has this running sores, he is to go out of the camp to be separated from the people. And he's not supposed to come by anybody. If anybody come close to him, he's supposed to declare himself unclean. So they don't try to hug him and shake his hand and give him a kiss and all that. He is separated. He's not to touch anybody, not his wife, not his kids, nobody. So that the disease doesn't spread. Now, if there's a healing starts taking place, he can say, oh, I'm healing. Then he waves into the camp, and he wants to be looked at by the priest. The priest doesn't touch him. He simply, with his eyes, looks at him and says, yeah, you're starting the healing process. Okay, we need another 7 days, and we're going to look at you again. Kind of that process continually goes on until there's healing. And the priest shall see him, and behold, if the plague be turned into white flesh, then the priest shall pronounce him clean that hath the plague, he is clean. So God has performed the healing process in his life. The bodily functions are starting to take over. His body is becoming strong again, and he is healing, and he is then declared clean. And is allowed to come back into the camp and back to fellowship with his family and his brethren. The flesh also, in which even the skin thereof was a boil, and is healed, and the place of the boil was white rising, or a bright spot, white, and somewhat reddish, it shall be showed to the priest. And if when the priest sees it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair thereof turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague of leprosy broken out of the boil. So the boil is like an unclean, your body can't deal with the infection, or like a septic, whatever, and a boil forms. And when you take care of the boil, and it's still there's an infection going on, it doesn't harden over and the body's not healing, then that's an unclean bacterial infection that's going on in your body, and you're to be declared unclean. Verse 21, but if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hairs therein, if it be not lower than the skin, but somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up for 7 days. Once again, the 7-day process, allowing your body to heal. And if it spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a plague. But if the bright spots stay in his place and spread not, it is a burning boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Or if there be any flesh in the skin whereof there is a hot burning, and the quick flesh that burneth have a white and bright spot, somewhat reddish or white, then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the hair and the bright spot be turned white, and it be in sight deeper than the skin, it is a leprosy broken out of the burning. Wherefore the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. But if the priest look on it, and behold, there be no white hair in the bright spot, and it be no lower than the other skin, but be somewhat dark, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And the priest shall look upon him in the 7th day, and if it be spread much abroad in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is the plague of leprosy. And if the bright spot stay in his place, and spread not in the skin, but it be somewhat dark, it is a rising of the burning, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean, for it is an inflammation of the burning. If a man or woman have a plague upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague, and behold, if it be in sight deeper than the skin, and there be in it yellow, thin hair, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry skull, even a leprosy upon the head or the beard. So it applies both to women and men. If you got an infection in your scalp and your hair, the same process happens. And if the priest look on the plague of the skull, and behold, it is not in sight deeper than the skin, and that there be no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut him up that hath the plague of skull 7 days. 7-day process again. And the 7th day the priest shall look on the plague, and behold, if the skull spread not, nor there be in it no yellow hair, and the skull be in sight deeper, be not deeper than the skin, he shall be shaven. But the skull shall he not shave, and the priest shall shut him up that hath the skull 7 days more. So they're to shave their hair and their body, so they can see, get any possible route of bacterial staying gone off of the body. 7th day the priest shall look on the skull, and behold, if the skull be not spread in the skin, nor be in sight deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. He shall wash his clothes and be clean. And he's probably saying, praise the Lord, and come back into fellowship. But if the skull spread much in the skin after his cleansing, the priest shall look on him, and behold, if the skull be spread in the skin, the priest shall not seek for yellow hair, he shall be unclean. But if the skull be in his sight as a stay, and that there is a black hair grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. If a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin or their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckled spot that groweth in the skin, he is clean. And the man whose hair falls off his head, he is bald, yet he is clean. And he that hath his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, he is forehead bald, yet he is clean. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall look upon it, and shall look and see if the sore be white, reddish in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of his flesh. He is a leprous man, he is unclean, the priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean, his plague is in his head. And the leper in whom the plague is in his clothes shall be rent, and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, Unclean, unclean. All the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean, he shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. So if this same law applied nowadays, all these people that are walking amongst us and cooking our food and taking care of our children, or teachers at schools or babysitters, and they have communicable diseases and they don't tell you, they would be banished from society, so that the innocent people aren't spread diseases. And that's what you're supposed to do with the disease. You're supposed to separate it from the people that are clean so that the clean people don't get infected. That's God's way. That's the right way. The garment also that the plague of leprosy is in, whether it be woolen garment or a linen garment, whether it be in the warp woof or the linen, or of the woolen, whether in the skin or in anything made of a skin, and if the plague be greenish or reddish in the garment, or if the skin either in the warp or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is a plague of leprosy, and shall be showed unto the priest. And the priest shall look upon the plague, and shut it up, that hath the plague 7 days. And he shall look on the plague the 7th day. If the plague be spread in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in the skin, or in any work that is made of the skin, the plague is a fretting leprosy, it is unclean. He shall burn that garment, whether warp or woof, in woolen or in linen, or anything of skin, wherein the plague is for, it is fretting leprosy, it shall be burned in the fire. Pretty much the best thing to do if you have that kind of thing going on in your neighborhood, and your kids have contact with that, pretty much all those little things that, are, whether it be lice, scabies, all that kind of communicable stuff that kids catch really easy, pink eye, all that, get their clothes washed, get rid of it, burn it. They're little furry animals that have been rolling in the bed with their disease and so forth. You just gotta bite the bullet and get rid of it, burn it, and whatever it takes to cleanse your home of that nasty disease. And if the priest shall look and behold the plague be not spread in the garment, either in the warp or in the woof or in anything of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing wherein the plague is, and he shall shut it up 7 days more. And the priest shall look on the plague after that it is washed, and behold, if the plague have not changed its color, and the plague be not spread, it is unclean. Thou shalt burn it in the fire, it is fret inward, whether it be bare within or without. So in my opinion, if you have something that's questionable, that's been exposed to a disease or a dead animal or so forth, if you can't wash out the nasty thing that's kind of hanging on to it, burn it. Just burn it. Or obviously throw it in the trash, bag it up real good, whatever you need to do in whatever your part of the world you live in. And if the priest look and behold the plague be somewhat dark after the washing of it, then he shall send it out of the garment, or out of the skin, or out of the warp, or out of the woof. And if it appear still in the garment, either in the warp, or in the woof, or in anything of skin, it is a spreading plague. Thou shalt burn that wherein plague with the fire. So bottom line, when in doubt, burn it out, right? And the garment, whether warp or woof, or whatsoever thing of skin it be, which thou shalt wash, if the plague be departed from them, then it shall be washed the 2nd time, and shall be clean. This is the law of the plague of the leprosy in a garment, woolen, linen, either in warp or woof, or anything of skins, to pronounce it clean or to pronounce it unclean. So garments of any sort, if you got a mold or a disease in it of some sort, like I say, wash it thoroughly, and wash it again thoroughly. And if you're still having the problem, then, burn it, get rid of it. sanctify your little area by cleansing, the cleansing of fire. And get rid of the garment, burn it. And it's best to burn if you feel it has an infection on it, or a blight, or a mold, that way. If you burn it, maybe you live in the city and you can't do that. Maybe you have to take it to be incinerated. But that way people at the dump that are, dumpster divers and digging through the trash, they don't dig it out and say, oh, wow, look, a cool coat. And they don't really know there's a disease on it. So best to burn it if possible. So anyway, that's Leviticus chapter 13. Nice long book, just a commonplace, how to live, how to live in a big culture with around lots of people, out in the wilderness, in a group setting, at campsites, if you have, infections breaking out, then you got to find out where it's coming from, and separate the ones that are causing the problem, send them home, in this day and age, and tell them to go see a doctor and, get their clothes clean, get their body clean. Anyway, Leviticus chapter 13 from the Bears Bible Hall here. God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.